Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
My name's James, and everybody's had a bored weekend without FPL, only to wake up on the Monday morning to find they've all lost their wood.
Why? What happened? Did he get injured playing for New Zealand?
It sounds like he might have overnight. Yeah, all panic.
Okay. I didn't even know. That's how much I care, James. That's how much I care. Yeah, no FPL at the weekend. It's quite all right, James. Down at the O2 in London, there was a UFC fight night made up for the lack of football, with a few people smacking the hell out of each other. But let's see who will smack the hell out of each other on the internet this week as we get ready for game week 30 in the FPL community.
I mentioned Wood because it's a great place to start as well. Reminder, Nottingham Forest playing the FA Cup on Saturday, so don't do anything yet. There's lots of information, which is obviously really important for the FA Cup quarterfinals. And it's why we decided to do something a little bit different this week. We're going to have a look at some of the statistics from the season so far, have a look at some team statistics and then some of the individual data. We are not trying to be analytical kings. Me and Suj are very far from it. But we didn't want to bore you with kind of going round in circles about what to do for game week 30 when, frankly, unless you're on wildcard, most of us really shouldn't be doing anything at this moment. The weekend's important. We'll cover all the kind of chip consequences again next Monday after the FA Cup quarterfinals. So just going to kind of take stock 3/4 of the way through the season, basically. Have a look at some of the data. This will be a useful one for those watching on YouTube rather than the audio. It'll still work for the audio, no problem at all. But we're going to show some graphics, primarily from FB Ref, which I know some people like FB Ref, some people don't. That's what I've chosen to look at for the data. So if you don't like it, sorry, tough. That's what we're using to look through some data from the season. We're going to start, Suj, by having a look at some team data.
Yep.
From the season. I've got a graphic up at the moment, which is it's ordered by expected goal difference so far this season per FB Ref's models. And what you'll see on here is goals for, goals against, goal difference, points of all the teams so far this season, points per matches, and then their XG and their expected goals against, i.e. expected goals conceded. And the final one, which is labelled in yellow, is the expected goal difference so far this season. What stands out for you, boss?
Well, firstly, the entire list, it's pretty similarly aligned to the league table, as you would expect.
Yep. Especially 3/4 of the way of the season in.
Yeah, it should be. I was surprised how far down you had to go before you got a negative expected goal difference. I thought it would start literally 2 or 3 places higher up in the table. But generally, the first thing was, that kind of sort of pretty much looks like the league table. And then you start looking for who is doing particularly well that shows lower down. So the first standout would have been Nottingham Forest, I would have said, as a standout. Aston Villa, obviously, quite low down as well. And probably who's doing better than they might expect to be. And I would say Crystal Palace and probably Bournemouth. Bournemouth are high. They're 5th. What are they in the table? 5th?
4th. And with Bournemouth are down to 9th or 10th now, I think.
In the actual table. Okay, yeah. So Bournemouth being 4th in this, Palace being 7th in this, are doing better. Forest, Villa, obviously higher in the table, but doing not as well in this. The thing with Forest is, obviously, their goal difference is in the league is plus 14. Their expected goal difference is plus 2. So you think, well, they're clearly overperforming in the league. Where would they be overperforming? The fact that they've got the most clean sheets in the league, I don't know if that's still true, but Matt Sells definitely has been keeping the most clean sheets. Yeah. Would make me think that therefore they must be overachieving in the XGC rather than to goals against, rather than goals scored, because they probably kept more clean sheets than they would have expected to. That's not the case, though. They've scored way more goals than they would have expected to. Like the XG, the goals conceded, goals against expected is 34. They've conceded 35. But it's the goals scored. They would have only scored 36. They've scored 49. So actually goals scored is where they've overperformed in the league this year so far. So that was surprising for me, I would say.
I think if you look at Forest in terms of actual XG, it's 16th. They're also obviously ranked, it doesn't show here, but they rank 20th for possession in the league. So we know they've got a certain style.
Yeah.
You've got individuals like Chris Wood have obviously outperformed their data. More on him a little bit later in this podcast, even though we've already covered him. So Forest a little bit of an outlier. This isn't to downplay what Forest have achieved this year, because I think all of us would look at Forest and go, if you finish top five, you absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely. I really like this table because I think if you actually look at expected goal difference versus goal difference and you compare all the teams looking across the two tables, they kind of land quite similarly, right? Look at Liverpool, expected goal difference 40 basically, goal difference 42. Chelsea, expected goal difference 16. They are on plus 16. A lot of them are very similar. So I think it's worth highlighting those that aren't, where you've got a bit of disparity. So I think firstly, by the way, what stands out is that huge difference between Liverpool and Arsenal.
It's
So
massive,
Arsenal was second, 19.8 expected plus goal difference. Liverpool's is more than double, 39.8. And Liverpool are running to roughly where they should be on goal difference. Arsenal is obviously actually an overperformance based on the table, right? So they're running at a goal difference of plus 29 versus an expected of plus 19.8. Suggesting to us that Arsenal's underlying data this year is closer to the likes of Chelsea than it is to Liverpool. I mean, that difference, Liverpool to Arsenal, is unbelievable, really, on expected goal difference.
Obviously, in real football, it's less because Arsenal have overperformed by 10 goals. Those 10 goals are in the goals scored column. So where does that correlate to the fact that they've not got their strikers or not had fit attacking players for a little while? Does that mean that either they would have scored more or their XG might have been higher, that they could have gotten closer to Liverpool? Is that what we're reading into it? Or
well, again,
they've scored more than they thought they would have without their strikers, so potentially could have, the XG was low anyway. Would that have been higher?
I mean, if you look at Arsenal in terms of XG this season, teams directly below them on the table here, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Manchester City, Newcastle, all higher expected XG than Arsenal. Crystal Palace is very close. Brighton is very close. And actually look further London down, Brentford and Tottenham is a higher XG this year than Arsenal. So we're putting them sort of down to, I don't know how many teams are mentioned, it down to sort of like 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
On XG. Not going to win the league on that, aren't you? So it's kind of clear where some of Arsenal's problems are and have been this year. And obviously you can factor in their priorities probably going to be in the Champions League for the rest of this season, which is understandable.
Gooner's your top for XGA, so you got something, don't worry.
Crystal Palace, interestingly, you mentioned obviously is kind of an underperformer this year. It's expected goal difference 8.8. They're only tracking at a +3 goal difference this year. That kind of 8 difference is basically all in their XG. Basically, so their XG 44, they've scored 36. Expected goals against kind of very, very similar. Other teams with differences, Brighton is a little bit of an overperformance, but I don't think it's truly worth mentioning too much. Forest is the standout one on here. Aston Villa, interestingly, expected goal difference +1.1, -4 goal difference. Got more I want to cover on Villa in a sec, so I'll come back onto them. Brentford is a bit of an overperformance this year. And look at mighty Spurs. Is massive difference, right? Tottenham goal difference, we've laughed at it a lot this season, right? +12. He's the joint 5th best in the league. Their XG kind of ranks them around about that, sort of 6th or so. But their expected goal difference this season is -1.1 with a goal difference of +12. Tottenham's XGA, expected goals conceded, is now 17th.
Ooh.
But when Tottenham were having inconsistent results before the big injuries, we kept highlighting and saying that Tottenham's underlying data has them at like 5th, 6th. It doesn't now. Tottenham are roughly where they should be in this league. It's worth saying Manchester United below that, still Everton below that. Yourselves, Suj, worse off than you're expected. So goal difference -16 versus an expected -10.5. Wolves a little bit worse. The other
I think with West Ham mind, with the managerial change halfway through a season, you got to split the two. And I bet you, I mean, we've talked about how much better goals conceded under Potter has been, and Lopetegui had some slappings, didn't he? 5s and 6s and stuff. So clearly West Ham's is, you kind of had to split
Absolutely, and we're going to show right at the end a bit more of a kind of a split on that. The bottom three stand out
Yeah.
as massively worse than everywhere else, and their actuals are worse on all of them. So Leicester to an expected goal difference of -27 are running at -40. Ipswich -34 versus an expected -30 goal difference. Southampton -49 versus an expected of -40. But when you consider again, Leicester is who are 18th, basically double Wolves' expected goal difference. And also, you've got Liverpool at double Arsenal's. Is it any wonder that the title race and the relegation places feel like they're done already?
Yeah, no, no.
So to go back to your point about, it's strange that it's so far down the table, basically down to you get to Brentford on this table to find a negative on the expected goal difference. Those bottom three are a massive reason
They're
why for
helping.
that loss.
Yeah. And they've been getting slappings week in, week out, fours and fives.
I did check as well after game week 29 what the bottom three were on this time last season, and are comfortably more points than what the bottom three are on now. So I think Forest may have even been 18th at this stage last year. So Luton were above it. Luton was certainly in the 20s. And obviously the team that was bottom, Sheffield United, were already on 14, as opposed to Southampton's 9. And I think Burnley may have been on 20 versus Ipswich's 17. So all of the bottom three were on more points than the current bottom three. There's a table in the end, again, to show you their performances in this calendar year so far, which is gobsmacking in terms of how far off they are the rest of the league, basically. I want to break down this table a little bit more to show you home versus away. So we're going to show you home first. So everything's still the same, but there are certain things on this that are quite interesting. For example, that Liverpool versus Arsenal difference actually tightens up quite a bit in terms of expected goal difference, home versus away. Liverpool's still best, 19.2 expected. Arsenal plus 14.7. And actually, if you look at the goal difference of the two, it's plus 20 and plus 17. So not as much of a difference. You can guess what that means for the away data, which we're going to show you in a sec. A couple of ones stand out here, I think. Villa stands out now.
Jump right up, don't they, all of a sudden? And we've talked about Villa Park. I mean, there was a period where they hadn't lost at home for how long? Yeah.
Massive jump up here to fourth on expected goal difference, plus 11.3. They've lost one game at home, all competitions this season, which was their first game against Arsenal, and I think that's the only one dating back to when they lost to Olympiacos in the Conference League semi-finals. So nearly a year ago now. So Villa are the one that really stand out there. Is there anything else on sort of home performances that you look at that's particularly surprising there, Suj?
I mean, the rest of the table pretty much is as is, really, isn't it? Just thinking, is there anything? Maybe Newcastle. St James is supposed to be bit of a fortress, and that, I mean, they are where they expect to be against the XG, but nothing that particularly stands out. Yeah, I wouldn't say anything is particularly against the table. I mean, Crystal Palace are still well up there, which makes me wonder what they're going to be like on the away record.
Should we show you the away? Because I think the away is more interesting, actually, because and firstly, draw your eyes to Villa.
Wow. Wow.
So, in terms of expected goal difference, fourth best at home, fourth worst away.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, he's only the bottom three. Got a worse expected goal difference than Aston Villa in away games. You see, that's quite remarkable, that, isn't it? And actually, if you look at the goal difference, they've got the fourth worst. The legitimate fourth worst.
Yep.
They are tracking to an expected goal difference of -10. They're on -11. Yep. It's only the bottom three are worse than that. By the way, that's only one goal worse than Ipswich's actual in away games actually this season. So Villa almost on the data the most swingy team in terms of home
that is
versus away.
Not almost, definitely. That's Jekyll and Hyde.
Tottenham jump up quite a bit on this, I think. It's not to say that this is good, by the way. It's still a negative expected goal difference. But they jump quite higher on this, whereas Everton and Manchester United don't. And actually, interestingly, West Ham jump up.
Jump up a bit, yeah.
A fair bit on this as well. And so too, to Newcastle. Newcastle actually placed fourth on this. I think that the standout one is Bournemouth being second.
Yep.
So Bournemouth expected goal difference second best in the league away from home. It's only plus 5.5, and they're tracking to a goal difference of +6. which in terms of teams better than them on actuals, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then it's Crystal Palace and Tottenham are the only ones actually at an actual goal difference better than Bournemouth. But I've had my model for a while. Bournemouth as strong at home as strong away as at home, and I think this actually backs that up. If you look at the XG of Bournemouth in away games, Suj, second best.
Yep.
Look at that, 27.7 XG on the road versus say Arsenal's 21.1. Next best to Bournemouth is actually Chelsea at 26.8, and they've scored 30 goals on the road as well, Suj. So, I mean, that's comfortably second most goals scored. And I reference that because I think from an FPL perspective, I think there'd be a number of people with a headache in game week 31 and might be thinking of benching the likes of Cliver away to West Ham. This probably suggests that you probably shouldn't because they're as strong away as they are at home. This is where that Liverpool difference really shows up.
It's just monster, isn't it? When you just look at the table, no one else can even get into double digits, and they're over plus 20.
Well, if you there's on this table, there are 7 teams: Bournemouth, Arsenal, Newcastle, Fulham, Chelsea, Man City, and Crystal Palace have a positive expected goal difference away from home. If you total them all up together, it's very similar to Liverpool's total.
Wow. That's you're talking about 7 teams there. Liverpool have a XG away from home, XGD goal difference greater than the 7 teams. Well, give or take the 7 teams below them. Yep. Monster. That is monster.
And it's not far away from their line, right? Their expected goal difference away from home is 20.7. Their goal difference is plus 22. Their XG on the road is 34.5. They've scored 38. Their expected goals against on the road is the best in the league, by the way. Arsenal's is best overall. It's 13.8, and they've conceded 16. Essentially, what's one is going to win Liverpool this title is their away form. If you look at the points as well, 35 points gained. That's 8 more than Arsenal. The difference between the two of them at the moment is it 9?
9.
9. There you go. There's your difference, basically, isn't it? So I just wanted to highlight a few things in terms of team data that is interesting. I think possibly standout one and is relevant for FPL at the moment is it feels like there's more to come potentially from Palace, and they're going to be of real interest. And those Villa home and away stats are quite remarkable, actually.
The thing with Palace is they're of interest anyway because of double.
Of course.
So I was going to be added. I've only got Munoz now. I was going to be buying Palace assets anyway, or even Glasner going into the 32 double. This does reinforce it a little bit, though. Sometimes there are teams that just regularly go against their statistics. If you know what I mean, you can't look at statistics on how they are just because they outperform them or they underperform them, because that's just the way they are. It wouldn't surprise me if Palace were a team like that.
Yeah, I think there's more to come for them. They do, it's worth saying, although there's the double 32 after Southampton, there is a difficult run of fixtures for them. And it is worth saying they've got some really, really tough away games to come after Southampton. Man City, Newcastle, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool are the remaining away games. So you should factor that into some of the data we're looking at here, saying, oh, okay, right, they've got some really strong ones away from home still to go. I mean, arguably, I know City have underwhelmed this, but you could say they've got the 4 toughest away games still to come. You could make a case in terms of on paper. So Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and going to St James's as well.
Yep.
Let's look at some individual statistics as some players. And I want to start with this one that we won't spend too much time on, but I think it's quite interesting. This is minutes played so far this season. You can also see on here, it tells you the amount of starts to the left. So all of these on here are either 28 or 29 starts. It tells you the 90s. So what that does is equate to like how many 90 minutes in there, i.e. if they're on 28.9 matches. So they're just short of the maximum of 29. Yep. It also shows you the goals, assists, and the goals plus assists this season. Now, obviously on this table, there's a lot of goalkeepers. Outfield players who have played every minute so far this season. Nathan Collins, Virgil van Dijk. That's it. Mm-hmm. They're the only 2. Now, Nathan Collins obviously might come back around for a Brentford double game week later in the season, and he is a threat from set plays, and it might be one when it comes around, might prove quite popular. Brentford have a really good run in. If their fixture with Forest went from 34, say, into 35, I think most people would want a Collins or a Flecken and they'll probably want Bumo or Visser as part of this. And I mentioned Bumo because he's next. Unbelievably, on all outfield players, he has only missed 6 minutes this season.
Well,
there's a couple of really interesting things on this as well. And I think this is the top 20 or so players. Salah and Haaland are both on here.
I thought Haaland had spent more time injured, if I'm honest with you.
He's
but
basically
not. He just missed one game.
Yeah, he missed the defeat to Liverpool, and there's the odd early-ish substitution in here. That is it. So Salah and Haaland, we are at kind of almost, I think, at this moment, in Ronaldo Messi level, not in terms of the quality of player for clarity, but in the they always play.
Yep.
They always play.
Yep.
Because to have two attacking players like that on here is quite striking. You expect this table to be made up of goalkeepers and defenders, basically, and particularly centre backs. But to see Haaland and Salah on here is remarkable because how many other attacking players do you see on here? The only other one is Bumo.
Yep.
Yuri Tielemans, make a case for that. It's possibly a surprising name in there. But a few other things I wanted to point out on here is actually 3 of Forest's back fours on here, which is really interesting. And it shows quite a lot about their stability. The goalkeeper's also on here as well. But Murillo, Ola Aina, and Nikola Milenkovic all appear on this table. There's a couple of really popular FPL fullbacks on here as well, in the likes of Anthony Robinson and Milos Kerkez as well. And these players are generally secure in terms of minutes. Shouldn't be any real concern about them. And I think that'll be ongoing with Salah and Haaland, particularly with the two teams out of Europe now. There's no reason to think that they're not close to 90 every game left. Interesting way to highlight that. Let's get into a bit more of the more exciting data. So this one is XG per 90 minutes. And what this table also shows for the benefit of those on YouTube is goals minus penalty kicks. And this is all per 90-minute data. Goals and assists minus penalty kicks. Expected assisted goals. So that's basically passes that lead directly to shots and then what the XG of those shots are. You've got XG plus expected assisted goals and also your non-penalty XG. The table I've highlighted is specific XG per 90 minutes. It will not surprise anyone to see Mo Salah top of that. But the difference between him and Haaland is 0.01.
10 penalties or 9 penalties, whatever it is he's put away this season, isn't he?
Now, this is where I think this is really interesting. You can skew the data based on what you want it to be. So, for example, there is only 0.01 difference on XG this season between Salah and Haaland per 90 minutes. When you add in assists and even still taking away the penalty kicks, Salah is 1.23 per 90 minutes. Haaland is 0.80. Right. That is a sizable difference. It's a 50% increase on Haaland.
Yep.
It's huge.
Yep.
Then if you look at the non-penalty XG, Salah is 0.52. And it's not only Haaland that's better than him. It's also Isak. It's also Watkins. It's Stop Laughing. It's also Jackson. It's also Visser. And bet you didn't think you'd have this one for the intro. Beto has a better non-penalty XG per 90 minutes this season than Mohamed Salah. So you can skew that data however you want.
Yeah, I mean, that 9 penalties is nearly half his goals. Sorry, it's not nearly half his goals, but it's a fair chunk of his goals. He scored, was it 24 in the league this season so far? So,
it's also remarkable he scored them all.
Yeah.
100%. I think if you get 9 penalties in a season, you would expect most players to miss one.
Yeah.
By the way, guess what? 27
league goals.
It's due. He's due to miss one. I'm just putting
it
out
James. there. No.
He's got West Ham in 32, Tottenham in 34. What's our chances, Suj?
Let's pray to God.
You know what the answer to that will be, don't you?
Yeah, no, he's going to score.
Be Leicester in 33, won't it?
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, again, this is another example where with Erling Haaland's first 5 games being so explosive, 4 games it was, wasn't it? That it's going to be skewed that way. And he would have racked up a big XG early on.
We, assuming Isak stays at Newcastle, we need to begin to put him much closer to Haaland and Salah than those behind him, I think, looking at this.
Yep.
That's strong, isn't it? 0.68 XG.
Yep. Yep.
Strong, isn't it? Non penalty XG kind of sits in between Haaland and Salah. And he's on pens himself, right? That's strong. I said to you pre-game week 1, if it was 11 million, I'd pay for him.
Yeah, that's the price I thought. 11 and a half, actually, to be honest with you. I think he'll come in at 11 and a half, which makes him expensive enough where you can't fit 3 premiums if you want Salah and Haaland as well. So you do have to make that choice. But yeah, I agree with you. And I'm not surprised that Jackson is particularly up there as well. He's had a lot more chances. It can't be Cole Palmer's putting on a plate for him for ages. I think I'd be curious as to the discrepancy between goals scored and XG per 90, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was a big difference with him.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his XG of 0.59 versus Wood's 0.42, then actually you can obviously change that to Wood to 0.33 on non-penalty XG. I mean, Chris Wood is quite low on this table, isn't he?
Yep.
Which is really interesting. Anything else particularly stand out on here? I mean, the Beto number's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to take that with a pinch of salt with the number of games that he's played, the quality of chances that he's put away. Visser being right up there. I mean, he's had a very good season. Other than that, I mean, we talked about Brennan Johnson when we did a kind of statsy review around Christmas time from memory, where he was particularly high on the list.
XG is the same as Solanke per 90.
How is Nkunku managed to find his way onto this list as well?
And this does filter out.
Minutes.
It does filter out low minutes, by the way. I mean, there's a couple of interesting, notable absentees from this page as well. Where's Boomer?
Yeah. True.
He's not there. There's no Bruno Fernandes on there. Now, obviously, we're going to show you stuff where the creativity comes into play here as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But Visser, that's really interesting because, again, I think he'll be a really popular one right at the end, actually. That data's strong. His expected minutes is really good throughout the season. The Jackson versus Wood is a little bit of a bad bait. And I also just kind of wanted to highlight here on Cole Palmer, who you're going to see a bit more on other tables. But actually, for him to still be 7th on XG, it's pretty strong.
Well, every other player ahead of him, James, is a striker, right? A pure striker. He's the first attacking midfield. Well, I don't know. You couldn't call Salah a striker, to be fair, but he's in a league of his own. All the others are strikers.
And in terms of the expected assisted goals on here, he's obviously running at 0.32. Salah's at 0.39. You have to kind of search for what's next best on here. It's Madueke and Cliver both at 0.22. And I know Cole Palmer's causing a bit of a problem for a lot of people, but what you're looking at there is an XG plus expected XAG this season, still going at 0.88 per game. Right, that's massive. For context, Haaland is 0.86.
Yep.
So don't forget about Cole Palmer, I'd say. Mateta shows quite well in it. Raul Jimenez, another one, is really good. XG more than 0.5 per 90 this season. It's some that are obviously heavily influenced. If you look at Cliver, XG 0.46 per 90, but the non-penalty XG is 0.24. Heavy influence of a number of penalties. I think he's had 6 this season. I want to say Justin Cliver and scored them all.
3 in one game, so yeah, he's had plenty.
As well. I want to show you this next one, Suj, which is it's kind of labelled on shots, right? So our old friend is top, and we'll get to him in a second. But this table shows you goals scored this season in the Premier League, number of shots. SOT is shots on target. And then you've got shots on target percentage. It's the amount of percentage of shots that land on target. You got shots per 90 taken, shots on target per 90. And then the amount of goals scored per shot. Should we just start with Antoine Semenyo and get it out the way?
Let's do it. Yep.
101 shots this season, 7 goals scored, which gives him a 0.07 return of goals per shot. Shots on target per 90 is only 1.17, despite him having more shots in this league than any other player. He has had 101 shots so far this season, with roughly a third of them landing on target, 31.7% on target. And you have to start searching to find those that are lower number than that. What do we think of him? Because
Yeah.
most shots in the league at his price in FPL, we can't knock the fact that he gets them away, can you?
I've owned him for a long time, James. I'm not going to be sad to see the back of him.
He's above Haaland, Palmer, Salah, then next on the
He
list,
just
mate.
lets him go, right? I wonder how many of his shots are actually blocked and stuff. Good player. Like if he turned up at my club, turned up at your club, you wouldn't be mad about it at all. But it's like that missing piece of end product hasn't quite clicked yet. But does he have the capability for when it clicks to be a really, really good asset? Yes. I don't think he's had his breakout season yet. I think there will be a 15-goal, 10-assist season in him. But it's just not quite there yet. But yeah, you've got to be in it to win it. So he keeps trying, don't get me wrong. I think he's, I wouldn't say he's not helped by, but Bournemouth suffer with the points being spread a lot, right? When it's a Tara and a Vanilson and Cliver and Tavernier, there's lots of players there that are picking up the goals and the assists, and he's another one of them. If he was the main man in a different team, would he have more influence, more goal involvement, let's say, perhaps? But yeah, I'm not going to be sad when I sell him, and I'm going to have no regrets or fear once I've sold him.
You won't be doing it in game week 30, mate.
No.
And I'd suggest if they end up doing it in doubling in game week 33, you won't be selling him till 34, mate.
Well, you never know. I might wildcard before then, and if I do, that will be a good opportunity to swap him out for a Clivert. But yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, but if he doubles in 33, you're going to want to get him out.
Well, I would be replacing him with another Bournemouth midfielder, I would say.
His minutes are very strong as well. Very strong. Rarely misses any time at all. I want to look at Haaland, Palmer, Salah, because it feels like, again, like we've had this separation of Palmer from the other two recently in FPL. One shot difference between them. Haaland 99, Palmer 98. Both had more shots than Mo Salah, 97. What's perhaps interesting is the shots on target does label a bit of a difference. It's Haaland most 54 down to Salah 44 and then Palmer 36. Consequently, their shots on target percentage is very similar numbers because they're all three of them are just under 100 shots in the season. And Haaland and Salah kind of track at just under 1 in 5 shots. It leads to a goal, whereas Palmer's only just above 1 in 10.
Yep.
Should that matter?
Should it matter for what?
Well, when we're considering Palmer, and it's worth saying, we've highlighted this a few times, we're probably not going to captain him again this season.
Yeah, he there is a certain element of fear now with Palmer. He's when I look at Cole Palmer and going without Cole Palmer, I always think that in any given game, it could be 2 goals, 2 assists, and maximum bonus at a 25-pointer. When I've not owned Erling Haaland recently, I've never felt that he could hurt me by going off crazy. And even to this day, I don't know. I've got the Leicester game, but outside of the Leicester game, I don't ever feel with Erling Haaland that he's going to hurt me by going off mental. With Cole Palmer, should I have sold him, I would always feel in any given game that he's got the tools to it could be 3 or 4 returns in any single game. And this shows that he is in and about it. It just hasn't quite dropped for him. We've talked previously, it was after Christmas in January where he'd created like 30-something chances for his teammates and none had been put away. If he delivered against his XG and his shooting was a little bit better, there'd be no debate about him right now. Could he turn it on? Sure. I reckon there's probably this break period has probably been good for him, right? We've had news of, is he carrying a knock? Is he not? He's had illness. Is he not? Maybe he just needed a bit of time out. He's been firing on all cylinders for like 18 months or so. Maybe it was just a case of, right, okay, he needs a little bit of a break. Refreshed and recharged, could he come back and tear it up? Yes. Like with Cole Palmer, I would always have the fear. The stats show that he's still capable. It's not like he's not in games anymore. So yeah, I'm taking the stats into consideration. I have fear with Cole Palmer. He can hurt you, man. Maybe it's because I didn't own him when he scored 4 goals in half a game of football earlier in the season and I haven't gotten over it.
Well, I did.
I
One of the
know.
good bits of my season. Sorry, mate.
No,
For
when you look
me,
at
if
half time and you don't own, you know people around you have,
don't
and
you
he
remember,
scored four
I
and a
was
half.
out with Harry and looked at my phone after I couldn't believe it. Joke it. What have I missed here? Mind blowing
Yeah,
me. No, I
mental.
didn't. I didn't
But
captain him, by the way.
there are few players that can do that, and he is one of them that can.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Wood is not on this table at all, despite there being 24 names on this page.
Yes, crazy.
Despite the brilliant seasons he's had in front of goal. So he's obviously a high conversion player. You can have a little bit more comparison, sort of Vissa Bumo here, interestingly. And I think a lot of people want both, by the way, for the final run in. Like I said, particularly if Brentford had a fixture move back as well. Data wise, here, a lot more similar. So shots, it's Vissa's 5 more than Bumo. Shots on target, Vissa is 3 more than Bumo. The shots on target percentage is both really good for both players, 47.6%, 46.6% respectively. Good numbers there for the two of them, both really interesting. One that really stands out here like a sore thumb is Eze.
Yes.
So
When we talked earlier about Palace underperforming their XG in terms of they should have scored 45 goals and scored 36 or something. I'm like, who is it? Because Mateta has been doing all right. So who's having all these shots and screwing
yeah,
up their XG stat? I think we found out.
yeah, we're gonna have a look at. We've got Eze that's top of another table. We're gonna show you in a little bit, but essentially Eze is sixth for most shots in the Premier League this season with 83 of these 24 players on this list. No, none of them have scored fewer goals than him. He has scored 2 goals from those 83 shots, and actually from those 83 shots, he's only got 21 of them on target, which is the same number of shots on target as Mateta, despite the fact Eze across the whole season has taken 31 shots more. We've got more shots from distance here, right? The quality
I
of
was
the
going to say free
chance is
kicks,
less.
maybe free kicks and stuff like
Yeah,
that. He
these are
loves
more
to have a
like
go.
Semenyo shots, aren't they? Although Eze has definitely got more
Based on
variation
the
in his
stats, they're
shooting
worse than
quality.
Semenyo shots, mate, to be honest with you.
Well, they are, yeah, because I mean, Semenyo tracks at 0.07 goals per shots. Eze's tracking at 0.02. You're not going to find anyone else on this table as bad as that. Also, Isak, just wanted to highlight as well in terms of his goals to shots is the best on this table. 0.25 is ridiculous. 1 in 4 shots. So we're sorting like Haaland and Salah 1 in 5. Isak 1 in 4 shots. He's ending up in a goal. He's actually only had 67 shots on target this season, which is less than the likes of Raul Jimenez, Bruno Fernandes, and Ollie Watkins.
I feel like if someone said to me, "What's a typical Alexander Isak goal?" Balls played through, he's in behind, beating the defender, one-on-one with the keeper, dinks it over or slots it away. He's not a pot shot kind of guy. He doesn't just take him from here, there, everywhere. He's usually, when he's shooting, you feel like he's got a clear shot of goal, only the keeper to beat, maybe one defender,
But he's
and you back
capable.
him every single time to.
He's capable of the worldie as well. Think about the goal he
He
scored
is.
against Liverpool, not in the cup final, but in the 3-3 draw,
Yeah, yeah.
where he hit
But
that from about 25 yards.
he just doesn't. It doesn't do that by volume. He's not like constantly having a pop. He's always in and around the box. The quality of his chances just seem way better, and there's no doubt like he's deadly. You
And
never think
also,
he's going to miss.
he hits the target regularly, right?
Yeah,
46.3%
solid.
of Isak's efforts land on target. That's higher than
Solid.
Mo Salah. It's quite a bit behind Haaland, who is the best on here by a distance, by the way, as said at 54.5. Other players on this list with a better ratio of hitting the target than Isak: Vissa, Bumo, and go on. Do you want to say the other one?
Sorry, Mr. Jackson, for doubting you.
Unbelievable. It's
Nicholas
Nicholas
Jackson.
Jackson. The Nicholas Jackson, I've already seen one of the questions within how bad has the Jackson Wood swing been this season? Well, the outcome will be the outcome, won't it, kids? I don't regret the chasing after Nicholas Jackson points this season. Because actually, when you look at that, the amount of times he hits the target, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Let's move on to key passes, bring some of our more creative players. into this discussion. So what you've got on this table, Suj, is expected assisted goals again, and you also got XA. So what FB Ref has, and this is a little bit of a confusing one to put up, it was the best way for me to show it. So the XAG is the expected assisted goals. XA is expected assists. So the expected assisted goals is literally to the line of, right, this is a pass that definitely leads to a shot. The XA will factor in, so that would include, like Vertonghen's pass for Heung-min Son's Puskas award,
Yeah,
right? Whereas that would be on the XA would be like a 0. But by the time Sonny's gone through 1-on-1, that's a higher XAG. Does that
yep,
make sense? Because
yep.
where he ends up shooting from, it's a 1-on-1 chance. The XA won't factor that in. It'd be like, right, at that point, the XA is 0, right? So that's the difference between the two. You've also got assists minus expected assisted goals. So that's the amount they've actually done versus the expected. I've labeled it in order of KP. That's key passes played. So I think that's any pass that leads to a shot. You've also got completed passes into the final third, completed passes into the penalty area, and completed crosses into the penalty area. Cole Palmer is top on key passes, 69, one more than Mo Salah. Bruno Fernandes is only a further 2 behind. Dan Kulusevski, the only other player at over 60, 63. Then interesting, Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah, that is really
58.
surprising. I mean, there are a number of names that are surprising. Kulu's not surprising because you've got no other creative players doing anything.
We're
Someone's
missing
got
him.
to. Enzo Fernandez is surprising. Leif Davis being up there as well. A lot of the others are the creative players. Your Bumo, Damsgaard, who's had a stellar season for Brentford and so on, are as expected, I would say. But the top three, Palmer, Salah, Fernandez, yeah, not surprising.
Just to highlight the completed passes into the final third, obviously a deeper a player is, the more likely this is actual. It's not passes completed in the final third. It's a pass that moves forward into that direction. So if you looked right at the bottom of the table at say Bukayo Saka, there's only 11 passes into the final third. It's not that he's only completed 11 passes in the final third. He's often receiving, and if he's
In
not
the
in the
final
final
third,
third,
yeah.
he goes inside or backwards. So he's not often a player that passes forward, I think, from a deeper position. He will do in the final third. So if you look at his passes into the penalty area, that's reasonable at 28. That's comparable to Enzo Fernandez. But that's a long way behind the likes of Palmer and Salah, but he explained away by the fact he's missed half the season.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, should he, if he was fit for the whole season, he'd be at least halfway up this table, if not more.
Correct. So, I mean, Saka's at the bottom of this table that's got 20 odd names in it at 42. He would be right near the top if he'd
Yeah.
have continued to play. And we should remember that because it's pretty much any time now with him, actually. Anything stand out on this one? There's a lot of the more creative midfield FPL players that would be of interest to us on this list.
No, I mean Leif Davis does stand out, but he could be top of this list, and I still would be no way near considering for my fantasy team. The only other defenders that are in there are Trent, who, yeah, doesn't surprise me at all, and Porro, who's forever bombing forward and trying to the style of play that you guys have doesn't surprise me. No other real defenders that are progressing it in a league with bombing on fullbacks and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, no one else particularly. I mean, there's Enzo Fernandez. I wouldn't really consider her as an attacking midfielder, so that is quite high. Even Declan Rice, I wouldn't consider an attacking midfielder, yet he's still on this list. Yeah, other than that, nothing too surprising, I would say, on this list at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few again. Martin Odegaard would show much better, bar obviously missing kind of the
Injuries.
first 3 months of the season. So that would jump him the majority on here, actually, Martin Odegaard. And I know as many Arsenal fans think he's underwhelming at the moment. The other one I went to highlight on it's another Brentford player, so it's Mikel Damsgaard,
Damsgaard.
who very quietly has been having a really good season. I think he's into double figures for assists now. I think it's only Salah's got more, actually. I think I'm right in saying that. And Saka's still like joint second most, by the way, for assists. 51 key passes this season. That's only one less than Brian Bumo. Yeah, there's more Brentford players of interest. I think people will overlook Damsgaard because if it does look like you want free Brentford and there's going to be a double in 35 if that eventuality happened, I think you overlook Damsgaard because the data suggests we should be having Bruno and Visser in there, right? And you probably
Yeah, yeah.
want to go one of Collins or Fleckham maybe as well.
He's 5.1. I'm just having a look here. I mean, technically, Son, Gibbs White, Savinho, Robinson, Bruno, and Saka have got more assists, but that's fantasy assists as opposed to real assists. But other than that, yeah. Damsgaard 5.1 if someone needs an off from maybe Gibbs White if Villa don't have anything interesting rest of the season. Don't mind that as a consideration.
Okay. I want to show you high crossing volume players now. And what this showed, this is ordered, the yellow graphic shows you this is just number of crosses. These aren't completed crosses into the penalty area. The TI you should largely ignore. That's actually for throw-ins, right? So you can see all your fullbacks have got high volumes there and your central midfielders obviously won't. CK is your corner kicks, and then just labelled to the right tells you the type of corner kicks, whether they are in-swinging, out-swinging, or if they're straight. Think like Kieran Trippier's for Dan Burn in the Carabao Cup final. What stands out here on the crosses? There's one statistic that stands out by a mile from all of this for me.
Well, what, Robinson taking no corners?
Yeah. Anthony Robinson, fourth most for crosses on this list, which is sort of circa 18, 19 players. And he's the only one on here that hasn't taken a corner all season. And all the rest, by the way, on this list are the lowest is actually Pedro Porro at the top, 40 corners taken.
Yeah, all the others, 60s, 70s, Declan Rice in there with 81 corners out of his 137 crosses. It's like nearly 65% of his well, maybe not quite that much, but about 55-60% of his crosses are corners. Robinson has more crosses, no corners. Wow.
Let's put this into context. He's putting 5 crosses into the area per game without corners. That's massive. So we've seen him have like 2 assists at Anfield earlier this season, right? You don't own him, do you, Suj?
No, I've not owned him all season because I've lived by this. So the thing is, right, some of his assists are dubious, that you think about the couple at West Ham when Iwobi's cross shots are going in and stuff. So you think, well, he's getting lucky assists here. It's not sustainable. But on the flip side, he's not getting assists that could have been assists where he's put the volume in. You got to be in it to win it. And he has been in it to win it. If it's not the regular assist that you think would have come from all these crosses, he's picked him up in other ways. So, yeah, I've not owned him all season because I've felt like it's not sustainable. But the fact that he's putting the ball in the box that much maybe means that it is.
Fixtures are ugly though, aren't they? Arsenal, Liverpool next 2. I think you're hiding it. If you're aiming towards a bench boost 33, you're hiding him. I think you're hiding him for the next couple when to keep hold of it. If he's not going to have a double 33 and you're planning that way towards a bench boost or at least doublers in 33, I think he probably becomes expendable for, you would suddenly look and go, oh, okay, I can go Robinson to Munoz here, for example. That sort of move is going to really appeal, isn't it? I think.
Yep.
I want to highlight another Fulham player on here because it might be interesting down the line as an enabler is Andreas Pereira, who shows up really highly for crossing numbers. And primarily you can see why from this, right? 85 corners on this list is more than any other player on here, which is quite interesting because he's not nailed.
Yeah.
Doesn't play every minute of every game. When he's on the pitch, he'll take the corners for Fulham. Obviously, Anthony Robinson's not taking them. So it might be an interesting one as and around the point if you thought that he was going to be fairly safe for the minutes. I think there's an impact of both Smith Rowe in a more advanced position and also Sasa Lukic and Sander Berge in a deeper position. Lukic has been suspended for the last 2. I think Lukic is back for Arsenal in game week 30. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Pereira. But he might be one we want to keep an eye on in the next few and maybe revisit. Lewis Hall shows really well on this.
When I look at Lewis Hall's name on this list, all I think is, why'd you have to get injured? Because he would have been so useful to us. Look, you don't. It's not his fault. no blame there, but definitely eyes on him next season. He's not going to be starting at 4.5, is he?
Yeah, another name that a couple of others that catch the eye on this list: Anthony Elanga. It catches the eye because of what we discussed last week. That at the moment it's in a more central role, but with license to roam. But you might find some of his crossing numbers comes down a little bit as a consequence. And also Matthias Cunha, he's really high on this. Now Cunha, as per one of the previous tables, the sixth table we showed you with shots, he's really high in terms of shot volume this season. Amount of crosses and creativity he has is an all-rounder, Matthias Cunha. And we know so often that when he returns, if he scores, you could be looking at the 9-pointer. We know that, don't we?
Yep.
He has been given an extra game suspension. So he will miss the game against Ipswich in game week 31. He returns for checks notes, Suj, in game week 32. Yeah, I'll be at Molineux. Declan Rice, I think could be one people look at if Arsenal double win 33, but he's going to be impacted a little bit by Saka. Obviously, technically, they're the other side, aren't they? Saka, we need to watch, right? I mean, even on this, he's on this table still, despite the amount of time that he's missed this season. 99 crosses, 50 of which are corners. And Arsenal's corner conversion has not been the same since Saka was absent, right?
It did feel at the start of the season, every time it was Gabriel goal, it was Saka assist, not Declan Rice assist. Yeah.
Yeah. No Mohamed Salah on here, despite the position he plays.
Yeah.
That consequence of no corners where you've got someone like Anthony Gordon has taken 50 corners this year. I suppose that's the impact of this, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Salah runs in, cuts in, is shooting off his left. When you've got Trent behind you to do the crossing, why would you bother? It's just a skill he doesn't need, is it?
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next table. What we're looking at here is XG, non-penalty XG, expected assisted goals. And the one I've highlighted in yellow is the non-penalty XG plus expected assisted goals. And I think it doesn't surprise us what we look at here in terms of top players. So Mo Salah, 26.2, then Haaland, 21.2. Remember, this is combined non-penalty XG plus expected assisted goals. Cole Palmer, 20. Then a little bit of a drop to Isak, 17. And then there's our mate Jackson again. Despite the fact, again, he's missed a few weeks. 15.4. Visser, 15.1. Both show up better than Ollie Watkins. And then look, there's our mate Semenyo.
Yep.
Such is there. And I tell you what, Ismaila Sarr really caught my eye on this.
That's surprisingly high.
Yeah, Ismaila Sarr is 9th.
Yep.
This is for the whole season. So he's XG 7.8. Again, obviously doesn't have any pens. 5.7 expected assisted goals. So it's total 13.5 for Ismaila Sarr this season. So that's higher than Mateta, 12.7. And it's higher than Eze as well. Now, the instinct is, I'm looking at, for me, say, if Palmer was ruled out, I'm just thinking, I'm going to Eze.
Yep.
Forget the money. Interest is just right. Go and attack Southampton and the double. Worry about the money later. Does that make you think it should be Sarr rather than Eze?
It wouldn't surprise me if they both scored very similar over that period. I think Eze is the safer, more sensible choice because of the set piece threat that he carries as well. But you've got to accept that he doesn't shoot on target. And so if Ismaila Sarr scored him, so be it. But I think the safer play would still be Eze if you could afford it. I think what it means is if you can't and you need to compromise, then going Sarr is not necessarily as big a downgrade as it might be in other areas. You talk about get the best asset at the best team. I would say really on paper, Eze probably is the best asset. Just Sarr isn't a particularly difficult downgrade. So if it allowed you to get a better, let's say Sarr allowed you to buy Anthony Gordon instead of having to buy Jacob Murphy from Newcastle as your other asset for the double, for example. I'd say Sarr plus Gordon, I would rather have than Eze plus Murphy. I don't know if that maths is similar in terms of price difference. Probably not really, but I would rather do that and have Sarr and Anthony Gordon, for example.
Subject to Gordon's fitness availability.
Of course.
Obviously, he's still suspended game week 30, Anthony Gordon. Hopefully back for game week 31, but he needs to get this. We think it's a hip problem he may have picked up with England. He won't be involved tonight. That's been confirmed. So he's going to be assessed by Newcastle. I just want to touch on Sonny for a moment because I kind of poo-poo that all season long, don't I? He still shows up quite well here, right? 13.0. He's better, right, than Mbumo, Bruno Fernandes, for example. But I think the big difference to Sonny now versus previous seasons is the non-penalty XG. Now he's on pens. He's had two this season, scored one, missed one. But his XG on this is the lowest of all the players here. And these are kind of, subject for Saka's missed minutes and stuff like that. These are the highest in terms of expectation this season. He's on here, but his non-penalty XG of these players is comfortably the lowest at 4.9. Ironically, the next lowest, I think, is Boomo on this list.
Yeah.
But on terms of expected assisted goals, Son ranks third. It's only Palmer and Salah higher. But I think the Heung-min Son we all wanted in FPL was the player that was very capable of going 2-3 goals, wasn't it?
Yep.
It's a more creative player now, and therefore that's very expensive for what you're getting. For him, really, he's played nearly every game for Tottenham this season. Non-penalty XG of less than 5 is really low.
Yep.
But across the XG and the XA, it's better than Boomo. Also costs you a lot more, by the way. Let's have a look at over and underperformers this season. This is quite interesting. So what you're looking at here, again, this shows you the highest overperformers this season on non-penalty goals minus XG. What's also shown on this table is their XG, their non-penalty XG, i.e. if there's any difference between the two of them, which you see, for example, on Chris Wood, who's near the top of this, their non-penalty XG per shot. So that's the quality of their shot, basically. And also shows you goals minus XG. I've highlighted this as non-penalty goals minus XG. Top two on this overperformers are Cunha and Wood. Thoughts? My favourite question.
Let me see your screenshot. Can you send me a screenshot before you send me thoughts? Oh, you
yes,
did.
Could you
sent
please?
Me this screenshot. Yeah. It doesn't put me off either. Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. With Cunha, once he's back in, he's just a very good player. All it tells me with Cunha is he's just a very good player that finishes his chances and creates goals for the rest of his team, and he's a talisman, and he's overperformed it because he's good. Same for Chris Wood. For Chris Wood, I think I look at it and I just think that's efficiency. It's just what he's doing at the moment. He's that efficient poacher in the box. He's not going to get volume, but when he is going to get chances, he's going to finish them. Actually, though, interestingly, with Cunha's suspension and injury, his suspension right now, there's no pressure to get him back right now. So he's kind of off the table anyway. With Chris Wood, I want a way to get to Erling Haaland. And the fact that he has overperformed and given me enough points in recent times means he's expendable for me. And saying that he's overperforming his XG is a convenient excuse. So I'm grateful that he's doing that, because when I sell him for Erling Haaland, I can use the reasoning that he's overperformed, and so it's acceptable to sell him. Plus their fixtures are, from memory, they get a little bit trickier now, don't they?
For
Forest.
Yes and no. I mean, what I would say is until the end of the season, I'd have them in sort of the top 3-4 on all fixtures left.
Not bad.
I think there's little things like Villa away 31, but otherwise, United and Everton at home either side. Tottenham away 33 is one of them you can label, but it's good for an attacking player, isn't it? Brentford at home 34. It depends what happens with that. It's going to be quite important, isn't it? If he blanks there, doesn't double 33, which probably wouldn't be the case, and then if that fixture was moved back, you might be looking at a sell in 33 and then come back for him. Obviously, look, he could be injured and everyone who owns might be selling anyway, right?
Yep.
I guess where people would go to is Mateta, first and foremost, I think, or Isak if they could afford. But Omar Marmoush might be another really interesting one. Now, overperformance this season is based on his hat-trick against Newcastle, right? Which was, I think it was 0.7 combined for the 3 goals he scored, and obviously scored a hat-trick that day.
Sample size for him is much smaller than
Very small, very
others as well.
small. What's really interesting about him, um, his his returns for Frankfurt off the chart, right?
I was going to say,
What he
what
was
do
returning
you
at.
happen to know what is it XG versus not? Was it Frankfurt or?
I don't know if it's worth comparing or not. We've got
Yeah,
two
true.
completely different leagues, completely different play style of the two teams. I mean, one team has Haaland and one doesn't as well, right? So there's an impact to that. I mean, it was under all the pens at Frankfurt, for example. His returns there were phenomenal. His underlying data wasn't like scary, incredible, the sort that you'd think I have to slam it into my team. I don't even know if it's worth looking at the Frankfurt data. And I certainly wouldn't be put off to think, oh, okay, this is small sample and he's overperformed it so far. Like if Woody's out, that's probably what I'm buying because I've got Mateta and Isak on board, and I think, well, that's my three. That's I'm just going to run with, and I know Marmoush is obviously going to have the problem in terms of minutes here. Isak and Salah both overperformers on this table. Where's Haaland, Suj?
Where is Haaland?
He's not there, mate.
He is not even on it. Yeah, you're right.
He's not there, mate. It's difficult to know how Phil Foden's overperformed his data this season.
He's not had the minutes or consistency, has he? I think that my biggest takeaway from this table, James, is I never knew that Jean Duran's real name was Jader.
I don't know if Jadot Duran is a player that we've not been tracking this year, but yeah, according to FPL Ref, it says Jader Duran. I don't know if he changed his name when he moved to Saudi Arabia. Brian Bumo is a big overperformer this season. I think that's well documented. And by the way, with overperformance, you can label it as we know some people have historically battered XG, right? They've always been
Yeah.
overperformers. Jamie Vardy historically was one. Actually, Heung-min Son has been another regularly overperformed XG. And you should expect the best finishers in the league to overperform in the likes of Salah and Isak are obviously in that. James Maddison, Alex Iwobi in the top five for overperformers. Iwobi's chance creations is pretty good, actually. Maddison, you can't look at because of the minutes.
Yep.
It's just too much for pain. But I wanted to highlight that, and I don't think anybody should be put off massively by someone like like Wood or Cunha. Yes, be aware they've had overperformance, but they've had overperformance for 3 quarters of the season. It doesn't mean they won't for another quarter. There's a lot of players on that table that I think would be of interest. This is interesting when I show you underperformers. So it won't shock you to show you that Ebe Eze is the biggest kind of reverse, the biggest underperformer this season. XG 6.1. He's obviously scored 2 goals, as already highlighted. So his non-penalty XG minus XG is under 4.1 under expectation. The biggest underperformer in the league. I'm going to run through all these players, Suj, and I want you to tell me which ones you would even remotely consider for FPL. I'm going to read them quickly, so just tell me at the end. Savio,
Okay,
Calvert-Lewin, Kudos, Vardy, Jackson, and Ketcher, Tavernier, Solanke, Tonali, Harrison, Archer, Lindstrom, Matthias Fernandez, McGinn, Dallo, Odegaard, Gundogan, Adama Traore, Szoboszlai.
I would consider Savio, Tavernier.
You did that on your free hit. That went well, didn't it?
Well, he obviously went off injured, didn't he? So Tavernier, if like Clivert was injured or something like
It's like
that.
the third Bournemouth attacking choice, isn't it?
But I'd consider him if the others were injured. Odegaard is always a consider. I think he's always a consideration. Szoboszlai is a consideration just because they're good players playing for a good team. If I wanted a 6, 7, 8 million pound asset rather than one of the big boys like Saka or whatever, they would be considerable. They wouldn't be like even top 10 maybe for midfielders. I think the only one that I would seriously think, I could go for is Savio, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind that as a potential punt. For similar price, I'd be trying to force Marmoush in if you had the forward spot available.
Well, exactly.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I think in terms of your question, it's like, is anyone here a serious fantasy consideration?
Correct.
And there are loads of other variables. Who else do you have from that team? What is he a punt or is he one of your starting 11? All that kind of thing.
Many people who look at their data will be drawn to look, who's underperformed so far and might have an uplift because they kind of drew like during the last 9 games of the season. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, by the way.
Returns imminent, James.
Exactly that one. Yeah. Shout out to Joe. Eze here was in our mind anyway, right? Southampton, a potential double 32 is an underperformance. Again, you can spin your narratives either way with his returns, whether you like or you don't like during the course of this season. But I think this is the stage of the season where during the March international breaks, I kind of really have a look at the data and these sort of metrics. I don't think I've ever sat here at this stage of the season, looked at all the top underperforming players and went, there's only one player there of interest to me. I can't believe that. The majority of the rest of them players have no interest.
Yep.
It's just Eze. And some of the data we've shown maybe suggests that SARS might even be the better choice. Just wanted to highlight that because I think that's a little bit interesting. Kudos an underperformer you wouldn't recommend, would you, Suj? If you doubled 33, it's Bowen, isn't it?
No, just go Bowen. Just go Bowen.
This one is not really anything for FPL, but I just wanted to raise it because I thought it was quite interesting. This is just show you some goalkeepers. So shows you the 90 minutes played, goals GA is the goals against and goals they've conceded this season. GA 90 is goals against per 90 this season. This SOTA's shots on target attempted against them, number of saves, and then what I've highlighted is save percentage. So it's goalkeepers save percentage, and this one is filtered to count out any goalkeeper that's played less than 10 games this season. If you've got a goalkeeper who's played more than 10 games this season and they're not on this table, it means they've not been very good. Alphonse Areola, Suj. Interesting, Mads Hermansen, another notable name missing from this list. Leicester continues to concede volumes of goals. The real surprise here will be the player that's top. Best save percentage in the Premier League this season is the much maligned Robert Sanchez. Thoughts?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, then I was looking at goal GA. What's that? Goals against conceded, right? Basically. So where does he sit on that? Average. I mean, there's plenty of players that have conceded more goals than him this season, but he hasn't played all the games as well, to bear in mind. Where would Chelsea be if he didn't have such a high save percentage?
The thing that keeps getting mentioned with Sanchez is most individual mistakes leading to goals, and I think to shots possibly as well, isn't it? Where particularly passes out of caused some problem, and there's been one or two flaps at crosses, although I'd largely think he's not too bad at them. But I think it's sometimes worth selling the story another way sometimes, saying actually 76.9% save percentage is very good. It is 0.1 better than David Raya for the record, and 0.8 better than Kepa Arrizabalaga, another Chelsea goalkeeper. He's conceding 1.22 goals per 90 this season, Sanchez. And listen, you would expect Chelsea to be one of the best defensive teams. But goalkeepers who are conceding less per 90 this season: David Raya, Matt Sells, fractionally, Alisson, Guillermo Vicario. I've had my goalkeeper missing half the season. He's on now. Martin Dubravka from his 10 Newcastle appearances. Dean Henderson of Crystal Palace. Edison of Manchester City. That's your lot. And he's been in and out the team a little bit as well, right? So I think that the per 90 is worth mentioning with him. The Vicario one's quite interesting.
Yeah, pretty low.
1.2 goals conceded per game when Vicario plays. He's not terrible at all. I mean, that's much less than Edison, for example. It's also less than Dean Henderson, Palace. I think Palace are third or fourth best underlying defensively now across the season. They're right up there. Emi Martinez, 64%.
It's pretty low.
It's not great. Bart Verbruggen might be a player that becomes of interest to people. 67.7%. So essentially one in every 3 shots he's facing is going.
I was having a look. I mean, the thing is with goalkeepers, I just think we can obsess about goalkeepers. The actual difference between the top performing goalkeepers and when you get down to 5th, 6th, 7th on the list from a fantasy points point of view just isn't that big. Right, top scoring goalkeeper Matt Sells. I'm sitting on Flecken, who's 6th. It's 20 points as it stands right now across the season. It's not like monster. No, sorry, it's 30 points as it stands right now. But like Flecken up to Onana, 5 points. Onana up to Henderson over the course of an entire season, 5 points. Flecken on this list, like you look at the saves he's made, 120 saves.
It's
so
bonkers.
Many more than everybody else. But then look at the goals conceded. 43. It's so many more than everybody else in and around
it.
The
fifth best save percentage in the league, Mark Flecken.
Yeah. So where does he rank, James, in the goalkeepers in terms of clean sheets this season?
Or has he got 4? I want to say maybe
he's 14th.
Yeah.
Where does he rank for FPL points? 6th. So kind of
them saves.
And yeah, exactly. And it doesn't. Not keeping a clean sheet doesn't translate to negative on goalkeepers as much as missing shots and underperforming your XG in the same way. So I kind of, we've talked about this ages, like pick your keeper and then stick with your poison. It shows in the end, it's not enough that it's going to make a massive difference unless you've got a really dodgy one.
But even counts,
Robert Sanchez has only got 10 points less than Flecken this season over our whole season. And
how many more?
Sanchez hasn't played.
How many more has Sells got than Flecken?
30 points.
That's quite a difference.
That is a kind of standout though. Sells, Raya, and Pickford are the 3 best, and then everybody else is quite punched after that.
Sells obviously most clean sheets, obviously very helpful. He's got the 6th best save percentage this season as well. I highlight Sells because of the goalkeepers to play every game, he's got the most saves other than Flecken, right? 88. Mark Flecken's 120, it's 32 more. So, what we're looking at there is an extra 10 points on saves for Flecken. So if he's not making the saves, there's 40 points difference between Sells and Flecken.
Yeah, if he wasn't making saves, he wouldn't be a good pick. And obviously, you got to factor in the cheeky little assist for Flecken. I mean, Ederson's picked up 3 assists this season. Leno's got 2. It is a bit of a funny one for keeper assists as well.
When you and I wildcard in 34, do you think we'll go Collins or Flecken? Some people are going, what game of chess are you playing here, James?
I don't know, James. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. I haven't given it any thought whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a shame that they've got 2 good home fixtures when Everton also have their fixtures at home to Ipswich and Southampton, respectively. That's not the combination.
So the answer's neither.
Looking for.
Just get Mikalenko and Pickford and be done with
it. their fixtures, their final 4 is United at home, Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Wolves away. And there's a lot of games between top teams playing each other. So that's why I keep referencing Brentford. Plus, obviously, if Forest win at the weekend, there's every chance that Forest fixture is going to move back rather than be brought forward. Just want to finish with this one final table, and this is actually taken from Transfermarkt, which is quite interesting and kind of leaves some food for thought for people to think about at the end. This is the calendar table. So this is the league table on results in 2025 only. Liverpool top, expectedly 25 points from 11 played. Arsenal running at 2 points per game, 22 points from 11. So too running at 2 points per game are Brighton, 20 points from 1 less played, so 20 from 10. And Crystal Palace are running at better than 2 points per game, 19 points taken from 9 games played. Joint best goal difference over that period as well. Only 6 goals conceded.
That's excellent.
Those 9 games played this season. Right at the bottom, highlight some bad ones. So I think between Man City show here on 5th in this table on 17 points and Chelsea are 14th on 14 points. That's 3 points between every team there, right? One result either way makes a big difference here. So I wouldn't read too much into that. You could look at things like Newcastle's 17 goals conceded in 9 games. I think that's quite alarming. But you can take out a couple of games from that, the 4-1 against Bournemouth and the 4-0 at Manchester City, for example. That's half your total. Below that, West Ham, not great, 11 points from 10 games. My team, not great, 10 points from 10 games played. Wolves, 10 points from 10 games played. But the 10 points from 10 games played for Tottenham and Wolves individually is better than the bottom 3 combined. The bottom 3 have 8 points in 2025, and 5 of those 8 points was gained by Southampton. 3 of those points was gained by Southampton against Ipswich.
Yeah. If you look at 30 games they've played between them, and they've managed 2 wins.
8 points.
2 wins.
Yeah,
2
and one's against another.
The
other win, by the way, we all know, don't we, Suj?
Leicester against Spurs.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
Leicester
mate,
against
but
an absolutely broken Tottenham. I saw
yeah.
someone, forgive me, someone put it on Blue Sky the other day. I can't remember who it was, but it was a screen grab of all Leicester's results under Van Nistelrooy. And the screen grab said basically if any one image could show you why two managers should be sacked. Yeah, obviously alluding to Ange potentially being the other one. The fact that we lost to Leicester. I mean, that's rank, isn't it? Look at the goal difference of those three teams as
Well, just
well.
looking at least the Southampton and
Minus
Ipswich.
61 in 2025 from
With
30
Southampton
games.
and Ipswich, Southampton scored 9 goals in 10 games. Ipswich scored 10 goals in 10 games. That's almost a goal a game between them. At least when you go and watch a team, you might see them score. Leicester, 3 goals in 10 games.
With 7 home games, they haven't scored, isn't it? They've scored 3 goals, 2 of them against Tottenham.
So 9 of the games, no goals in. Sorry, 8 of the games, no goals in. It's just, rank horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think standouts here are those Brighton and Palace are obviously in really good moments. I think between City and Chelsea, you shouldn't take too much notice of that. West Ham are in the process of preparing for next season. Tottenham are in the process of Thursday night football's all that matters. Wolves are ticking over at 1 point per game, which is going to comfortably have them safe, even if you just keep ticking over at that. The bottom 3 have to be targeted continuously. And it's why, like, if Wood is injured going into this week, if you don't own Mateta, if he plays at Fulham in the Cup, I don't quite know how you don't buy him going into Southampton and then knowing he's got a double 2 weeks later.
Well, because you buy Marmoush because he's got Leicester. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be a dilemma for a lot of people. Should I buy Mateta or Marmoush?
Or you might be in a path where you go, shit, Bournemouth are doubling 33 now, and you go Evan Nilsson against Ipswich. But ultimately, this is a real thing at the moment that where possible, we should be buying players playing these 3 teams. It's quite simple logic.
Yeah,
but
no doubt about it.
Unfortunately, at the moment, they're so far worse than even the likes of my team on Wolves at the moment.
I think it's a dilemma I'm going to have with Chris Wood. I was going to sell Chris Wood this week anyway, James.
Sure.
Yeah.
Better be someone playing that bottom 3.
Now, listen, I'll come back to that. So I'm not selling Evan Nilsson because he's got Ipswich. I'm not selling Isak because I've got money in him and he's got a double coming up.
Yeah.
The ultimate player I'd like to buy is Erling Haaland. But to buy Erling Haaland, I've got to sell Cole Palmer to make the money work. If I don't go for Haaland, then the next choice is Marmoush because I just think I'm getting a fairly all right asset. But Mateta, if he was fit, would be another consideration. I think it would be quite a dilemma on where to go. Mateta's probably the safer choice for the long term, but I will have fear of what will happen between Man City and Leicester this weekend. So yeah, it's going to be Marmoush, Haaland, or Mateta, and I'll be doing that regardless of whether Chris Wood is fit or not, because I think it's just time to come off him. I don't need him.
I think that if I make a transfer in game week 30, which I'd rather not actually, but if I do, I think I'll be buying a Crystal Palace player, a Man City player, or a Bournemouth player.
Yeah,
genuinely.
Yeah.
Cool. And it might be target the same things for the weeks after as well, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Should we go into some questions that we had on the internet, James?
Yeah, can do.
No, you tweeted to ask for some questions. I avoid Elon Musk's app these days. But you do. You should have used the thumbnails of the players that are from those clubs, mate, to target. Right, let's have a look here. Oliver Render, not a question. Okay, that's a good start. But would be good to expand further on your point on home and away form changing, difference in clean sheets, goals, etc. Well, we've had a rundown of that for sure. Also, Nikolai saying he's looking forward to the pod, so I hope you've enjoyed the stuff we've rambled on about. Matt does have a question, James. Here's one, gents. What effect did player pricing have on the need to pick promoted players as the squad fillers this season? Well, I don't think it did it?
No, not massively.
I don't think at the start. I don't know. I had no one from Leicester.
I wouldn't have because I bench boosted in one, but then when I wild carded in 3, I put about Fass in. But I never used him.
Filler. That's just absolute fodder, basically. I might have had Ben Johnson, I feel like, but I don't even think I had him at any point this season. I'm trying to wonder. I've had Tyler Dibbling as a filler.
I think
I
it's
just never
probably
knew I needed
more,
any of them for this season.
unfortunately, whatever comes up, because this is now going to be 2 years in a row where the bottom three have gone back
Gone back
down
down.
and quite limply in doing so. It's going to be a real thing in terms of, if we've got opening day next season, Brentford are at home to Burnley. It's like, right, I've got to go and attack like Boomer and Visser or something like that. It's going to be like that as like a warning for next season. Leeds, because of the size of them, feel like they could be like a big outlier. You've got clubs like Coventry having a really good run at the moment, like under Frank Lampard. But if they come up, like, are they going to be ready? I don't know. Burnley, Sheffield United, unfortunately, really does feel like it will be same again.
Mm.
I'm sorry. I hope that's wrong. By the way, I've got nothing against those two clubs, but it will feel like that. I think if those two teams come up, and they probably will with
Who's
Leeds.
managing Sheffield United these days? Chris
Chris
Wilder.
Wilder, yeah,
So if you think about it, let's say it's Burnley, Sheffield United, and Leeds. All of those managers have managed in the Premier League before as well. Farker, Scott Parker,
yeah.
and Chris Wilder. So you'd think they have a bit of an understanding about the league as well. Interesting this year, like Leicester came up, they lost their manager right before they came up. McKenna had no experience in the Premier League, nor did I don't know if Russell Martin had any Premier League. He's never managed
No,
in the
no,
Premier
no.
League. So I don't know if that makes a difference in that all the managers will have been in the Premier League with other clubs.
Maybe,
Well, Wilder with Sheffield United could be interesting.
maybe, maybe, possibly. I would say, well, yeah, Daniel Farker was at Norwich, and we used to target that. I think that we'd have targeted Scott Parker's Bournemouth certainly when they first got promoted. Before he kind of said he wasn't good enough for them, and they proved that they were good enough. By the way, and Wilder, we've certainly targeted Sheffield United in that spell before he left the first time, right? During the COVID season.
Yeah.
They're absolutely atrocious. So I don't think that will change much. Was there a question in there? I haven't got anything really from
No, it
Blue
was
Sky.
around
So is there one
pricing.
about clean sheets? Got
There's a
yeah.
couple more in it. Luke, this is an interesting one around fixtures. You might just be able to shed a bit of light on this because
Go
you
on.
you have some insight into how the minds of the fixture planners don't work. Hi guys, Everton and Liverpool got denied permission to bring forward the derby by an extra day. That's the midweek game. Any reason for this? Because it would seem pretty obvious as Everton play at 12:30 versus Arsenal on the Saturday. That's a Wednesday Saturday turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a very
Wednesday
obvious.
Saturday's right, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, neither are playing at. I've spoken about this before. The answer's TV,
I was
ultimately.
going to say as simple as they've picked
Yeah,
for TV, so
yeah,
deal with it.
yeah. Nottingham Forest and Manchester United is selected by TNT, which is the Tuesday night, which is why Forest had to play at Brighton in the FA Cup on the Saturday. Liverpool versus Everton is the selected Sky game on the Wednesday, and they've put Chelsea versus Tottenham as a selected game on the Thursday. Now, I've already spoken about this. The Liverpool and Everton games and the Chelsea Tottenham games should have been on the Tuesday night. It should have been on Tuesday night because it's not playing at the weekend. In fact, what they could have done here really was say TNT, all right, you have Forest Man United on the Wednesday. Is that right? You can have Liverpool Everton on Tuesday. You can even have Chelsea Tottenham on the Monday. You can have a Monday night game if you want because they're not playing the weekend before. Difference. So then Chelsea and Tottenham have got to play Thursday, Sunday, Thursday again when they could have had Monday, Saturday, Thursday. So we do nothing to help our teams playing in European competition. Now it's not like a big deal, but and it wouldn't be. But say Tottenham playing on the Thursday against Chelsea, right? They're going to mass rotate against Southampton on the Sunday. Now it doesn't matter, right? Because Southampton aren't staying up, unfortunately, right? But it could have worked differently. Where Southampton got a real edge for that now. We don't think about these things because TV rules. TV goes, we want it there, there, there. Premier League should have been going, stick one, Liverpool, Everton, or Chelsea, Tottenham with big games. Stick one of them on the Monday night. Because I'd warned about this on the Chips and Arse Man. We could end up with a Monday night deadline for this particular game week. The good news for those on wildcard is we won't. Will obviously be a Tuesday deadline. Ultimately, it's been selected by TV. If they moved it back to the Tuesday, then of course, well, TNT will go, well, we're showing Forest against Man United. We don't want the Merseyside derby to clash with us. We want reign of the TV that day. What Liverpool and Everton probably should have done was gone back and said, can we play on the Monday? We might have had a
Yeah.
bit more success.
FPL Albert, do you need any other strategy in FPL other than maximizing players versus the promoted teams? We just talked about just do that. I think it might work for a number of people between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I've not got. The only problem is, like, right at the end, this is interesting. Right at the end, they'll play each other quite a bit. It's not helpful. Like Leicester play Southampton in 35. They play Ipswich in 37.
Yep.
So that's no good. It's not helpful, is it?
Nah.
I need it separated. It's not separated.
Mr. Gatsby says, what teams have improved the most in XG and XGA since the calendar turned to 2025? So basically in the new year.
I don't have that. Sorry.
Okay. So no help.
But I think certainly you could look at things here and say there's definitely been a continual progress
Brighton.
in Palace, particularly. Brighton's a more recent one because you have to remember with Brighton, and what's remarkable about this Brighton, obviously 20 points from 10 games, and they've obviously conceded 14 goals in those 10 games, which is perfectly reasonable, was 7 against Forest.
Right.
So they conceded 7 in the other 9, right? So if you remove the anomaly, that's good, right? Brighton have also gone and won at Newcastle in the FA Cup. So, Brighton and Palace are in really good moments and ironically play each other in their rivalry in game week 31.
That's a wrap on the questions, James.
Was there a clean sheet one, Suj? I feel like there was.
No, well, we answered it. We talked about it. It was, it's off my screen now, but we talked about it.
There was someone who asked about why are clean sheets down on last season? Forgive me, I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, I'm sure I saw it on Twitter. Why are clean sheets down on last season? They're not, ultimately. Clean sheets came down massively last season.
Sorry, James. Yeah, I did find it. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
FPL onside. Defender points this season compared to defenders in previous seasons seem like there hasn't been that many clean sheets this season compared to previous seasons. There you go.
So the clean sheets came down massively last season. So last year, it dropped to about 150 from about 200 in the 22-23 season. Came down a lot. And It stayed this year more at last year's level, is tracking very, very similar. So this year is now basically just proving that last season wasn't a one-off. There were more goals being scored. And we couldn't say that last year wasn't a one-off. And I think it's going to show that there were more goals scored last year. But last year we had the impact of more minutes played.
Right.
Think of all them games we had like 102 minutes so regularly last year, didn't we, and stuff. And that's calmed down a lot this year. So there were more minutes played last year. So by consequence, you will have more goals. So we couldn't be sure that it wasn't more like an anomaly last year, but it's certainly tracking towards this year is more like last year than going back to what it was prior to last year.
Right. Understood.
So cool. We should all go 4.5 defenders next year, basically.
Understood. Anything else, James?
Nope. Play it your way. Good.
Listeners, that was fun, James, going through some of the stats. I mean, all we're doing with the idea of looking at the numbers is putting some food for thought out there. Have a look at the stats yourself. If you've been listening to the audio and you want to recap, you can always whiz over to YouTube and see the graphics, which have got the stats on there. As James mentioned, they're all on FBref as well. If you're over on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you want to, and give yourself a thumbs up. You'll get notified as soon as we go live with any other videos. And if you don't do that on YouTube, just do it on the podcast platform that you are listening on, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever it may be, because all of that stuff helps grow the show and helps get the word out there.
I should probably do the schedule before finishing.
Yes, that was my question, James. What we got to look forward to for the rest of the week?
People's Poll podcast tomorrow. It is fan related. If you've got the opportunity before 3:00, get over onto Planet FPL Pod on Twitter/X. There is 3% between the three options at the moment. So the voting is very, very close. So it's open till roundabouts 3:15. Clash of Correspondence on Wednesday this week. It's Chelsea versus Tottenham with Gary Mantle and Ricky Saunders. Clayton James shows on Thursday this week. Ask James, 12 p.m. Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Full week of content as per usual there.
Lovely jubbly. Yep. If you want to support the show, patreon.com, you'll get prize leagues, you'll get James's fixture planning spreadsheet, you'll get a Slack community and a whole bunch of other fun stuff as well that keeps people entertained during boring international breaks like the one we've just been on. So, why not come and join us?
I think they're all going out of their minds at the moment. Can I just say, you know why this one's worse? I've seen a few, but this really does
because
feel
the
like
FA
the
Cup
longest.
straight after.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's not just a 2 week break. It's like, it's a 2 week break and I still can't make my decision.
Yeah.
For most
I
people, it's like, I've still got away. So it's almost like, it's almost futile thinking about it too much unless you're saying wild card at the moment.
Cool. Listeners, thank you so much for your ears. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend and have a great week ahead. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Chat for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please. Man child.